Is Bill Belichick the savior that Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars need? Let's talk about it. So I saw a report yesterday, I think it was by The Score, I don't know who the official artist is, I'll probably put it up on the screen, and it said that Bill Belichick is eyeing up the Jacksonville Jaguars job. And for those of you who have been following me for a while and know what I'm about, you guys know that I was salivating at this. I'm a big Trevor Lawrence fan, big Trevor Lawrence believer. I think he's obviously had a bad year this year, but I think there's a lot of recency bias when it comes to the hate on this guy. Let's go all the way back to 2 years ago when at the end of the year, what was it? He was like won 7 of his last 9 games to get the Jaguars into the playoffs, won that AFC South, came back 20 plus points down versus the Chargers, got the Jaguars a playoff win, and then followed that up the next season by starting the year off 8-3 before an injury derailed things. And then Jacksonville ultimately had a hell of a collapse when Trevor Lawrence was missing games, came back early. You know the drill. And then going into this year, it was kind of like well, what are we going to get out of the Jacksonville Jaguars? Because the past 2 seasons, we've seen half a season of really excellent and really great play, and then half of a year of really stinky and really shitty garbage play. And this year, it's kind of been all of the stinky, shitty garbage play. Trevor Lawrence kind of looked like he was regressing. The offense didn't look special, and the defense is bottom 5 in the NFL. And it's like, what happened? Because this past offseason, the Jaguars committed to Trevor Lawrence. They gave him, I believe at the time, it was the highest quarterback contract ever. I don't know, it's something crazy. He's making like $55 million a year. It's unbelievable. More than $1 million a week for Trevor Lawrence to play quarterback for the Jaguars. And I get it to an extent if you're the Jaguars. You know, you're not exactly a free agent destination. And if you believe that that potential is still in this guy, you pay him. But ultimately, when you're committing that money to him, you now need to commit to creating a winning organization around this player. And after what we're seeing this year, obviously some shakeup and some changes needed. Now, the general manager needs to be let go. Obviously, the Brian Thomas draft pick was a good one, but, you know, picking Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson, it's not like this guy's been some draft guru. Brian Thomas Jr., yes, an excellent talent, but a wide receiver out of LSU. Like, you're not exactly some fucking draft god for picking one of those guys and being good. Like, LSU produces like 3 great NFL wide receivers, it feels like every other year. Jefferson, Chase, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas. Like, you get the point. And the defensive roster that he built just simply isn't good. And the defensive coordinator also isn't good. Like, I think the general manager and Doug Peterson and his staff, like, it's going to get blown up in Jacksonville. And it should, because when you're paying a quarterback $55 million a year, whether you think he's good or you think he's not good, you can't settle for mediocrity. And if you're committed to this quarterback, then it means the changes have to come elsewhere. And those changes are going to be at the head coaching staff. And while I'm a big proponent of bringing in offensive-minded head coaches, especially when you're trying to improve your quarterback play, I do think Bill Belichick could be a really good thing for the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially if he comes along with Josh McDaniels. Because we know Josh McDaniels is not an NFL quality head coach. We've saw it in the Raiders. We've seen it in every opportunity he's had to be a head coach. He's not that guy. But as an offensive coordinator, he is pretty good with the quarterback. We saw Tom Brady have some really great years with Josh McDaniels, and he speaks very highly of him. Now, granted, it's Tom Brady. That's the fucking GOAT. I understand. I'm not out here saying that Josh McDaniels is going to turn Trevor Lawrence into Tom Brady. But I think we'll get more out of Trevor Lawrence than we have in years past. And Bill Belichick is the perfect culture guy to fix that defense and really fix that team. That team feels very laid back, very accustomed to mediocrity, like the Jaguars, the laughingstock of the league, poverty franchise. Bill Belichick comes in, that culture flips. Belichick ain't going to settle for no shit play. Belichick ain't going to settle for no shit effort. And there's guys in the league on defense that want to play for Bill Belichick. He'll have a good defensive line. He'll have those defensive backs playing good football. He'll have the linebackers playing good football. The defensive scheme will be there. Each and every week, the preparation will be there. The culture will be shifted under Bill Belichick. And I think the Jacksonville Jaguars can really turn things around. The AFC South's a little bit wonky right now. Obviously, the Texans are the team in that division, and I think they're going to continue improving. But when you look around at the Colts and you look at the Titans the number 2 spot in that division is up for grabs. And the number 2 spot in that division, I do think if they can separate themselves kind of the way that the Texans have into 2 tiers, like the Texans and blank, and then the other 2 teams are blank and blank, you could get healthy on that division. You know, if you split with Houston, you could be looking at a 5-1, 4-2 division record each and every year. Like 2 teams from the South could certainly make the playoffs. We kind of thought going into last year, and then again potentially into this year, that those 2 teams would be the Texans and the Jaguars. At least that's where my thought was, because who were the 2 best quarterbacks in this division? I thought CJ Stroud was a clear-cut 1, and I personally thought Trevor Lawrence was a clear-cut 2. Now, obviously, the gap between Anthony Richardson and Trevor Lawrence is much closer than the gap between CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence at this point in time. But remember, Trevor Lawrence, still a former number 1 overall pick, great college prospect. The guy's mobile, got great size. Like, you can get more out of him. Brian Thomas going to develop that run game. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing there, but they have quality backs. Like Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby aren't guys that lack talent. This is a system issue in Jacksonville. Again, I'm not saying that, you know, you bring in Bill Belichick and the fucking Lombardi's going to Jacksonville. But I think you bring in Bill Belichick, the culture shifts, the playoffs are certainly within reach. There's accountability. There's a grown-up. There's a sense of more buttoned up for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you can take advantage of a division that is lacking. And, you know, maybe Trevor Lawrence gets back into that realm of, is he a top 10 quarterback with Josh McDaniels? That offense is going to be made easier for him. We saw the offenses with Tom Brady in New England. A lot of quick throws, a lot of get your quarterback in rhythm. I feel like the Jaguars haven't had that this season with Trevor Lawrence. I feel like they go down a lot early because the defense isn't put together, and it's just a bad spot for both sides of the ball to succeed, because now the Jaguars offense is pressing and their defense gave up a ton of points. Bill Belichick, while he's not some quarterback guru, will make Trevor Lawrence's life easier. And it doesn't even have to be Belichick. This could be a Mike Vrabel situation where you just have to change the culture. We saw what Jim Harbaugh did in LA for the Chargers. That roster isn't perfect, but they're winning football games. Why? Because there's a talent at quarterback. They created a good run game. They have a good weapon or two, but the defense sets the tone. There's going to have to be a lot of turnover on that roster, but we even saw that in Washington this past year. Dan Quinn comes in, turns over that defense, brings in some vets that he likes, has good relationships with, and now that defense sets up a better spot for the offense to succeed. Jacksonville isn't going to change from dog shit team to Super Bowl contender overnight, but in one off season with Belichick in the building, and you know, this team's going to be looking for a new GM. This is a spot Belichick could have power. We know he wants to be GM and head coach. Jacksonville is a spot that could potentially give him that. You're in a division now where, you know, Belichick, D'Amico Ryans, Shane Steichen, who's the best head coach at this point in that division? It's up for a conversation. Obviously, recent success has you lean D'Amico, but Belichick's the GOAT of coaches. Maybe he gets it back. I don't know. But it's worth the shot if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, absolutely. Now, again, it's all speculation at this point in time. Will it happen? Won't it happen? I don't fucking know. But as somebody who likes Trevor Lawrence, I'm rooting for this to happen. The Jaguars have to do themselves the service of leaving this upcoming coaching cycle with Belichick, Vrabel, Ben Johnson. One of those 3 has to be in Jacksonville. And Jacksonville's a good landing destination. Ownership's willing to spend. They are going to have a high draft pick, potentially the number 1 spot. You could get Travis Hunter up in this fucking bitch in Jacksonville. You have Trevor Lawrence, who's at least a quarterback you could believe in, compared to, you know, going to the Raiders with Gardner Minshew. Like, yeah, give me Trevor Lawrence. Good weapons in Brian Thomas, Ingram, you know, Etienne, Bigsby, like guys that are at least talented. You know, that's how I feel if I am going into this coaching cycle. Obviously, the Bears will probably be a better spot, but the Jags are a top 3 destination. And if Belichick wants to go there, I think he could turn it around and make this a playoff team. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. How excited would you be for Bill Belichick to go to the Jaguars? And do you think he can make a change for this team? If you love the NFL, Be sure to hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.